Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. Tonight, we are returning to a series that we kind of took a break from for Lightfall. Our last three episodes, we covered a ton of stuff from Lightfall, including the post-campaigns, the main campaign stuff, the post-campaign stuff, the raid, Root of Nightmares, Nezarec, all of that fancy stuff. We've been having an absolute blast with Lightfall. There's so much more that we wish we could cover, but we also want to kind of keep rolling forward with our Bray series. We started this kind of at the beginning of the year, this is what we started at the beginning of the year with covering Clovis Bray, and then we went into Siva with Willa Bray, and then Rasputin with Anna Bray, and we're gonna kind of return to that with tonight's episode. Because we wanted to again keep that complete history thing going on. So tonight, we're gonna cover a really neat individual who kind of spans all of I don't want to say all of Destiny, but he really does. He kind of started in the Golden Age and then kind of survived the collapse and then kind of became a guardian, sort of. So yeah. Myth. Should I give him a name or do we let them all wait in anticipation?
Well, we can give them a name.
Okay.
And yeah, it won't be very long before you get the name. But to tease things a little further here. So when we were discussing Rasputin at near the end of our talks about him, he enacted a protocol during the Golden Age with the expectation of this protocol observing humanity and experiencing humanity in a way that Rasputin could not, with the intention of bringing those experiences back and being reintegrated into Rasputin so that he could better understand what it means to be.
Kind of like a more in-depth thing of what Anna was trying to do for him, right? Like,
right.
Anna was trying to teach him that the finer things in life, what I would think, music and arts and feelings, to make him less of a machine. Whereas her father, Clovis, was like, well, he's this all, that's all that it will ever be, is a machine and a tool. Why make it think? And Anna's point of view is like, well, if this is AI, like, it needs to think, it needs to feel in order to achieve its goal of helping humanity. It needs these things.
Yeah, and so Rasputin enacted what it called Siddhartha Golem, and the kind of printed, for lack of a better phrase, business purpose of Siddhartha Golem, according to Rasputin, was to experience humanity because experience is the teacher of all things.
Ooh,
So this was the goal of Siddhartha Golem. Now, this protocol was enacted prior to the collapse, and was therefore this golem was I don't know if destroyed is the right word, but became inoperable, was shut down, was damaged, whatever it may be, presumably during the collapse. And Rasputin lost contact with it along with everything else when Rasputin kind of went dark and hid itself away during the collapse to try and preserve itself. Until Rasputin, after the collapse, what would be during the Golden Age, gets a signal. And we can see that printout or the logic of Rasputin having received that signal in chapter 9 of the book called The Liar. in the second section of that, and it says, Siddhartha Golem detected in sector OR41S. Reactivation conditions unknown. Siddhartha Golem identified with Traveler energy signature. Automated remote asset seizure failed. Automated remote injection of wetware payload failed. Automated remote injection of hardware payload failed. Invoking Absalom Knife. Upon execution, all affected assets resume long hold at midnight exigent. So that's...
Ooh.
So Rasputin has detected Siddhartha Golem has come online again for not under Rasputin's control, or Rasputin didn't send the signal. And it has Traveler energy. And Rasputin is trying these automated kind of remote shutdowns and remote, hardware payload. Some kind of packet is trying to send to affect the hardware of Siddhartha Golem. And nothing's working. Nothing's actually getting through. And so Rasputin is saying, okay, I'm going to spin up some defenses to try and reacquire this golem that I have put out into the world. And then
aggressively reacquire.
Reacquire. And then once I have reacquired it, I will go to sleep again. I will hold at midnight exigent.
Well, and it says in this entry, traveler energies detected.
Yes,
and there's pretty telling of what has happened here. A ghost has rezzed his Siddhartha Golem as a guardian. So
yes. Siddhartha Golem was an exo.
Is this the well? And that's the question: is it an exo?
I guess that's fair. Siddhartha Golem had an exo body, I think is maybe more accurate.
Yeah. So like that's the weird question, and of course we said where this came from is The Liar, and that book. I'm going to spoil it because I can take that. This book, The Liar, is all about Felwinter, and this kind of brings about a question of, is Felwinter the only entity that wasn't an exo, an awoken, or a human to be rezzed as a guardian? And I think that the answer is yes. Because he's not technically an exo.
Right.
Like you said, he has an exo body. The frame, the movable bits, the non-squishy bits are of exo print, but like his consciousness is what? Is it part of Rasputin? Is it an AI? Is it like, what is Felwinter?
In a lot of ways, he is some amount of code that Rasputin created or split off from himself that got to experience got to live among humanity until the end. So it's kind of a similar situation to like Banshee and Clovis, where they come from the same source, but they have potentially grown to be very different beings from a personality standpoint, at least. But so now that we know that Rasputin has seen Siddhartha Golem come back online and is determined to get it back, let's see what it was like on the other side of this resurrection. We are going to start the lore readings tonight with the lore card on the Winter's Guile, which is a Warlock exotic glove. And this one says this: listen to me very carefully. They're coming for you. They'll ask for your name. Your name is Felwinter. I don't think that's my name. I know. Say it anyway. Why can't I remember my name? I always remember my name. Something's wrong. Was I damaged in crypt processing? I don't know anything about the Deepstone Crypt before my time. What the hell are you then? What, you don't trust me? No. You will. You're a very presumptuous little drone. What makes you think that? No one else will help you. It's kill or die out here. And that's the end of that card.
This is also interesting. Is this like normally guardians kind of pick their own names, but the ghost is telling him, I'm like the in this instance, and rather than the guardian naming his ghost, or the kind of like where Pulled Pork and Uldren kind of like came to this understanding of like, okay, you're Glint now, and he's like, I like that. Well, now this is just straight up a ghost telling the guardian, you're Felwinter, done. And Felwinter's like, nah, I don't know. That's not how this works. What's wrong with you? But yeah, no. So something's coming for him. Like, he freshly rezzed, just boop. Now we've got Felwinter. And again, the idea of like the exo, he even he is thinking of himself as like, was I damaged in the crypt process or something like that? So, I mean, it could have just been just a random exo that had been storage dumped or something. I don't know. Like, I still like the idea of like Felwinter's consciousness being like a subroutine or submind of Rasputin, the way like Charlemagne and Malahayati, all of those were. And then this was just like, this was Felwinter. This was another subroutine that got put into this frame and was like, here, go experience, and I'll integrate you later.
I think that's essentially what it was, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, so whatever it is, whatever Felwinter is, it's in danger. Something's coming for it, and the ghost here is like, hey, we got to move, or whenever it is shows up, just say, hey, I'm Felwinter. We'll all have tea and crumpets afterwards. Like, it's the ghost seems a little worried about it, but not like too incredibly like, we need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
worried about it.
Yeah. So now Felwinter has been named and resurrected by this little drone, quote unquote. And we're along for the ride. So we're starting off with chapter 1 of the book called The Liar, which is just titled The Beginning, Part 1. And it goes like this. A risen exo stood, dazed in the middle of what looked like a giant library. He'd never been here before, as far as he could remember. He'd never been anywhere before. He couldn't remember anything, and all he had to go on was the name given to him by a strange silver drone, a name he didn't recognize, Felwinter. All around him were giant gilded shelves, half of them broken, littered with tattered books and cracked cylindrical cases. He stepped on a book and broke its spine as he walked, and the little drone followed him. I know you don't trust me, it said, but you have no choice. Who else have you got? I don't know, Felwinter said. He thought for a second. I don't know anything, really. Exactly, so you should listen to me. The soaring height of the ceilings made the building feel like an open space. Remnants of an old fresco loomed over his head, cracked and faded. Maybe it was beautiful once. Felwinter trudged through the empty fog of his memory, trying to understand how he got here. You're stubborn, obviously, but if we stay here long enough, you're going to die. Felwinter tried to tune out the little drone's voice. He needed to think. He picked his way through the ocean of books, but stopped dead when an explosion rocked the building. He looked up. Dust fell from the faded ceiling of clouds. See, said the drone. This is what I mean. We have to go. A place like this isn't safe. Beside them, a computer terminal, one that looked broken beyond repair, flickered to life. The building shuddered again. A warbling female voice came on over the PA system, crackling and distant. Site-wide lockdown initiated. Then a reassuring male voice, smooth but made eerie by the warped quality of the recording. All library patrons, please report to the nearest emergency station. If you require assistance, an attendant can help you at the reception desk. The recording cut off, and the building shook again. Metal shutters began to descend over the windows, groaning from age and disuse. Something big hit the building, and debris showered down over them. We should hide, the drone said, and Felwinter had no choice but to agree. They fled the library. Outside, crouched in the rubble of another building, they watched together as the library was crushed under a torrent of what looked like to Felwinter falling stars. See, the drone said again. And that's the end of that entry.
So it kind of starts off as like a typical Guardian res. The first res of a Guardian of like, hey, who the hell am I? Where the hell am I? What is shooting at me? Oh God, I know how to use guns. Let's go. Like that's kind of like but a little bit more urgent in this one. Like it's to me, it's like a telling sign that he was in a library. So like he was like trying to experience things. He was trying to get that experience as Siddhartha Golem. And then this is like what you were saying with the collapse happened. He's just whatever happened, and he, for lack of a better term, died or shut down or whatever, and is now rezzed. And like the first thing that happens is, are these war sats raining down? Like, did Rasputin as because with the very first set of rings of like Rasputin recognizes this thing is awake and is like, okay, let's aggressively reacquire this, and now all the automated everything of this library has now activated, like saying, oh shit, this thing's under attack. And then they like the two of them escape, the Ghost and Felwinter escape, and then the world comes crashing down on top of it, destroying this library in what I'm assuming is just thousands of war sats. So shit. I don't know what's one way to go with this. Like, yay, Felwinter for escaping, but shit, now you've rezzed and you already got a target on you. Like it's kind of rapid response there.
A little bit. I think it is safe to assume that these are probably war sats, just because there's not much else in the Destiny universe we know of that would be raining down from the sky like that.
Especially in like a controlled like area, like
right.
There's not some entity just hurling stars and spoiler alert, the Earth is smaller than stars. So I mean, unless if they were like asteroids or something, like they're clearly small enough that hundreds or at least tens of them would fit in an area of a library. So that's where in my head I'm like, well, it's got to be war sats. Like that's the only thing size wise that would seem to fit.
Yeah. So a very adventurous awakening for Felwinter here. And so we will continue their journeys after the library in chapter 2 of the Liar book, which is the beginning, part 2. And it goes like this. Felwinter and the drone traveled for 3 days. They saw nothing and no one. On the third night, still walking, Felwinter looked up and saw meteors like streamers against the night sky. He was struck by the sight, and then one meteor in particular, blazing, orange, getting bigger and bigger. Run, said the drone. The first meteor hit the ground behind them. Not a meteor at all, Felwinter realized when he looked back, but something metal, man-made. The second hit its target, and he died. 6 deaths later, crawling out from under metal wreckage, losing a piece of himself, clawing, running, they finally managed to find shelter in a nearby cave. "Ner," Felwinter said, as if he were swallowing all of his words and choking on them. "I can't fix you," the drone said after scanning him. "That last hit completely corrupted right-protected processes in your cognition modules." The drone spun uneasily. "You're an exo. Exos were made in the Golden Age with proprietary tech. I can't hack into your head to fix the damage, but I can rebuild you as you once were. If you shoot yourself, it could work quicker." And so he did. And when the drone resurrected him, Felwinter crumpled to his knees. He sat down, put his head in his hands. "Why is this happening?" he asked. He looked at the drone, trying to read its body language. "Because of you? It's after you, isn't it?" "No," the drone said. "I don't know why." And then it gentled its voice. "The traveler told me to save you. That something was different about you. The ball in the sky you showed me, it talked to you?" "Not exactly. I can't explain it." Felwinter grunted and held his head again. His body ached with the memory of 7 deaths, though he knew that was impossible. "Can you explain anything, then?" "Not really." They sat in silence for a while. Eventually, the drone spoke up again. "We shouldn't stay in one place for very long. I don't think it's safe." Felwinter stared at the ground, and then finally looked up at the drone. "How will I sleep?" "Oh, you don't need to." "But I want to." "That's fine." And that's the end of that card.
Yeah, so war sets.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not meteors or suns or stars or anything. Yeah, it's what a God, what a way to be res as a new guardian, right? Like completely amnesiac, like no idea where you are or what you are. You were barely given a name, and like he's already experienced like what death and resurrection feels like now. So it's like, and I, I, I did love. I love highlighting your voice acting because you did when you did your voice of his broken voice box, I was fighting so hard not to laugh because it was so spot on. It was really good. And all I could think of was like, oh, the poor guy, he can't res. But then like the like reality hit real fucking quick after that. When the ghost is like, just shoot yourself and I'll res you. What the fuck, ghost? What is wrong with you? Like, I get it. Like, it's I guess, and we talked about this with when we did our way back when we did our light and dark series of like how does a ghost res and stuff. It's like looking at like a blueprint in time or like a uh almost like it's like rewriting time for that particular individual. Like instead of turning left, they turn right, and turning right causes them not to be exploded, and so now they're alive. But yeah, like it's that's kind of fucked up. Like, hey, you just survived 7 deaths. Now kill yourself. Okay.
And to follow that up with the like, "Hey, little drone, I'm getting sleepy. Where am I going to sleep?" And the ghost just being like, "Oh, you don't need to do that." He's like, "Yeah, but I feel like I want to sleep." And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just keep that feeling." Like,
I don't care if I don't need to. I'm going to sleep, you little silver ball. Yeah.
oh. So we continue on in chapter 3 of the Liar book, which is titled "The Name." And it goes like this. 6 months of running taught Felwinter 2 lessons about life. The first was this: Anything could happen at any time without explanation or reason. The second was that it didn't matter how unfair something seemed, recognition of injustice could not create a just world. There were other lessons too, though those were more tactical. Never rest in the same place twice, and don't rest at all if you can help it. Never cross an open field if a less exposed route exists. Beware of meteor showers. Look out for organic enemies, but don't waste your time avoiding them. They aren't the real threat. That night, Felwinter and the drone sheltered together in the loft of an old barn. A vicious rainstorm outside impaired visibility enough to justify an overnight. But Felwinter couldn't stop himself from thinking, from assessing. A flimsy building, big empty field, low attack readiness in this loft. Flimsy building, big empty field, low attack readiness. And still, no matter what the drone said, that he didn't need to sleep, he felt an inexplicable exhaustion. He couldn't locate it precisely, it just permeated all of him. The drone noticed. It never said anything, but Felwinter knew that it noticed. He rested his head on his knees, and beside him the drone hovered at his shoulder, drifting away occasionally to assess the weather through the glassless window. Eventually, Felwinter raised his head. "What's your name?" he asked the drone quietly. "What?" "Your name," he said. "You gave me one. What's yours?" "I haven't thought about it." Silence fell between them. They lived in silence, but in recent days the silence had changed. If before it was a silence of strangers, now it had become the silence of a team, where each member knew their job and what was at stake if they didn't perform. The lights of Felwinter's eyes narrowed briefly into lines as he thought. He glanced at the drone. "Spring." "What?" the drone said. "Felspring," Felwinter said. "That's your name." They stared at each other. "Are you serious?" the drone said. "Felspring." Felwinter gazed past. Silence again. "Well, fine then," said Felspring. And that's the end of that lore card.
So there we go. Now we got the naming of the ghost, the other half of a team. I'm kind of with Felspring on this. Like, are you fucking serious? That was the laziest naming convention ever. Like, you just took what I said and just repeated it back to me. That's not coming up with a name.
Well, I mean, I guess if you want to try and get symbolic with it, you can be like, well, spring brings life back to winter.
I was thinking of that too. Like, I was like, it's kind of appropriate in the set. Like, on the one hand, it's the regurgitation. Like, okay, really.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I was thinking, okay, well, you know, a ghost does breathe life into something, and it breathed life into this winter. So now it's like a new winter. But then, like, the fell portion of it, it's like, well, now it's a corrupted winter and a corrupted spring. Like,
Yeah.
okay, kinda, I guess. I don't know, sort of.
So, one way or another, regardless of how happy they are about it, we now have Fell Spring and Fell Winter. And their journey continues in the 4th chapter of the Liar book, which is titled The Assailant. And it goes like this. After 3 weeks without any incident, Felwinter and Fell Spring stopped avoiding main roads. They started passing by other traveling parties, even a small camp. They never engaged until an Exo Risen asked to tag along with them on his way to a place called Red Valley. Neither Felwinter nor Felspring liked the idea, but they both reluctantly accepted it, with an unspoken agreement between them that it would not last. "Nice day, isn't it?" said Griffin 11. He looked up at the blue sky and opened his arms. "Good traveling weather. We're lucky." Felwinter and Felspring exchanged a look, and then focused on the road ahead again. Griffin looked at Felwinter, hoisting his pack up onto his shoulder. Where are you headed, anyway? You never said. Felwinter took a beat too long to say, Not sure. This stumped Griffin, inexplicably. Felwinter thought, Huh, he said. Just walking? You could come with us, said Griffin's ghost. She wore a green and yellow shell with flower-like petals. No, said Felspring, and then remembering the world of polite conversation, added, We're going somewhere. We just don't know the name. Griffin and his ghost absorbed that information, nodding. An adventure, Griffin said finally with a grin in his voice. Right? This whole world is an adventure, isn't it? And we get 1,000 chances to live it. Felwinter said nothing. He felt uneasy. He rarely spoke, but when he did, he never sounded like Griffin did. His voice never sounded like that. He never had the impulse to talk that way. Why? They walked on, passing through a string of abandoned factories. There was evidence of the fallen everywhere, but it looked old. Ripped up banners trampled in the mud. A walker stripped of most of its parts. Griffin loosed his gun from its holster casually, but didn't break his step. Gunfire stuttered out from an open doorway. A bullet clanged off Felwinter's shoulder like a clapper off a bell. Arming his rifle, he returned to fire in the direction the shots had come from. He should have known this was a bad spot. Low visibility, a lot of corners, squat buildings they couldn't see inside of, hundreds of rusted shipping containers to hide in. The doorway was a decoy. 10, 20, 30 armed and armored combat frames with glowing red eyes spilled out of the warehouses to their left and right. Moving with discipline and eerie synchrony, the frames began a pincer maneuver, trying to pin them down. Griffin swore. We have to get to cover, Felwinter said. Fighting back-to-back, rezzing each other when they died, Felwinter and Griffin took down some 15 frames with gunfire alone, and a few more with grenades. Several got back up despite crippling damage, tottering forward on bent and broken legs, relentless, single-minded. They drew inexorably closer as the two exos ran down their ammunition and energy. It was Griffin who saved them in the end, with 3 bolts of arc light that erupted out of his hands, as the frames closest to them disintegrated in a shower of blue light. Griffin whooped and said breathlessly, Oh, I've never done that before. Felwinter went to examine one of the mostly intact frames. Griffin followed. Damn, he blurted. Do you even know what these are? No, Felwinter said. They weren't exos. Felspring zipped between them. She scanned the frame, bathing it in blue light. She hesitated, and then offered. Rasputin? I think so, Griffin's ghost agreed. See this logo? She indicated a symbol on the frame's chassis that looked like a little military badge. That matches my database for Rasputin. Yeah, said Griffin. He looked at Felwinter. What did you do to get a Warmind on your case? Felwinter stared down at the frame. I don't know. What's a Warmind? That's the end of that card.
So this is very much like the kind of like what I was talking about before, of like the difference between what Felwinter has experienced as a Res Guardian and what a typical Res Guardian is. To me, a typical Res Guardian is this Griffin who's very lighthearted, like, hey, we could die 1,000 times and we'll just come back 1,001 times. Let's go on an adventure. And Felwinter, who every single thing about him since the second he's been raised has now been tactical oriented, like open field, barn, low rise, like all these bad angles, like all these tactical layouts of everything. And again, that to me that says more to the AI version of Rasputin, which I'm like, going with my headcanon of like, this is just a submine. Like, was this the submine in charge of tactical operations and so that's why he's constantly tactically, or is that just is the tactical nature of Felwinter a forced evolution by nature of being constantly rained down on by warsats?
Yeah.
But yeah, when you first mentioned the frames in this reading, I was like, are these Vex? Are these, what are these? But they kept calling them frames, and so then I'm now reminded of these giant frames, these giant Seraph frames from way back. I say way back. I've been 2 years now since Season of the Seraph. Not Season of Seraph. Season of the Seraph was just this previous season to Lightfall, but even further before then, the Season of the Bunkers. I can't think of what the actual name of that season is.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about, the one where they had the public events, and you literally, like, you would call in Rasputin and he would build a frame for you, and they were these giant frames. Like, I mean, they were massive, Aikilos looking frames, with that very much that Rasputin and Aikilos look to them.
Well, you get to see some of them in the Season of the Seraph ending mission, because Rasputin calls in the heavy frames to assist you.
Yep. While you're running down Aramis. Yep. I remember those. I said that right? Aramis, not Eris
yes.
Horn. So yeah. So I mean, these frames are massive, and these two guys, I mean, they're a 2-man fire team. They're fighting back to back, resin each other as they go down. Like, they're taking these frames down. They finally get all of them down, and then they check them out, and it's got that symbol on it. The I think the name of the symbol is Carhare, Carhare. And the only reason why I have any type of idea of what this is, I know it's the typical Rasputin symbol that looks like a diamond. It almost looks like the front of a bunker with two of with it opened up.
Yep.
Where like the two wings are kind of up towards the top. But that there is a emblem that you can get. And I want to say it was a random code, but I don't think the codes were random at the time. Back when the little vinyl, the vinyl ghost shells that you could get at, like, Target or wherever.
Yep.
They came with little codes in them, and one of the ones that I got for mine was the Carhare emblem, and that's the name of the emblem, and the symbol on it is that symbol. So it's just a basic starry background, nothing real fancy, almost like a Milky Way kind of starry background, and it's just got one symbol on it, and it's that Rasputin symbol, that like bunker opening symbol on it. So yeah, to see that is very telling of, like, hey, you've got Rasputin on your ass. What the hell did you do? And even Felwinter's like, shit, I don't know. He's been on me since day one, and I haven't done anything.
Yeah, so we now have, Felwinter has learned through this very brief partnership with Griffin that he now has a name for whatever has been hunting them since, his resurrection, since his very first memory as a guardian. And it's Rasputin, and it's a Warmind. And now he's like, what does that mean? But he has a lead. He can try and get information on that now. And that hunt takes him to a bunker. And we can see what they find there in Chapter 5 of the Liar book, which is titled The Bunker. So this is a shorter one, but it goes like this. I can get it open, Felspring said, as Felwinter pried open 2 rusted metal doors with his bare hands. You really don't have to do that. And the metal screamed as Felwinter ripped the 2 doors back. And they were deep underground in a bunker Felspring had struggled for 6 days to locate. Now that they'd found it, Felwinter realized he didn't know what it was they were looking for. I don't know very much about Rasputin, Felspring said, floating cautiously beside him. I thought he was deactivated or destroyed in the collapse. Felwinter walked forward. The room was like a time capsule, untouched, preserved as if technicians might walk in at any time to work the control panels lining the walls. It reminded him of the library where he'd woken up, just in its complexity and maybe beauty? Was this beautiful? He wasn't sure. So why would a Warmind be after us? Felwinter murmured. Felspring hovered to examine a flat black surface on one of the control panels. I don't know, they admitted. Felwinter came up beside them. He hesitated and then reached to touch the shiny blank surface of the panel. It blinked to life under his hand, bright code and controls glowing orange, rearranging themselves as he dragged his finger across them. How did you do that? Felspring whispered. Felwinter shook his head. He touched another black panel and lights came on all over the bunker, waking it up. I don't know, he said. And that's the end of that card.
So this is like one of those bunkers that I was talking about from the season of the bunker, only because I can't remember the damn name of the season.
Worthy. I think that was season of the Worthy.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, so like all of these bunkers. Now again, I'm going to test both your knowledge and my knowledge in this one. All of these bunkers are what are supposed to be pillory style bunkers, correct?
Oh, you're really testing it.
Aha!
I don't think they're pillory locations, because pillory would be where you would separate out.
Yep.
An AI too. And if I recall correctly, Season of the Worthy were I would equate them more to auxiliary stations. They were additional areas that Rasputin could access.
Yep, almost like having like having more memory, like more processing power and more processing memory.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to equate it. It's like having another set of server stacks plugged in for him. Like he just has more access to more processing power. Is what to me that to me is what these bunkers are more akin to is the more servers, the more processing power, stuff like that. And now that you're saying that reconnection, I'm 99% sure that's what we were doing during Season of the Worthies. We were reconnecting these so that way Rasputin could get a better handle on, because that was, and again, I'm going to test both of our knowledge here. That was the season right before Arrivals.
Yep.
And the only reason why I'm remembering that is because of the murals, and they weren't murals; it was a map.
Yeah,
of
the
Sol
incoming Doritos.
Yeah, and each it had the big old bright sun on one side, and then it had little like rings that went further and further out, and had Earth and the Moon and Mars and all the planets in the asteroid belt, and then but like all the way out at the end, like each week, like towards the end of the season, like I want to say it was like week 5 or 6 of that season, little red triangles started to appear in lights at the very far end, like out at the heliopause of that screen. And each week they filled more and more and more of the screen. By the time we got to like the end of the season, like the week, but like right before Arrivals, that whole half of the screen of all these bunkers was just lit up with red triangles, showing that there's this massive fleet incoming, which then showed up in Season of Arrivals. But yeah, so this is so he has accessed one of those bunkers, and the fact that he can freely activate these panels to me says more of, again, speaks more to that idea of he is part Rasputin. Like somewhere deep buried in him is some base subfunction code that is now just reconnected with this stuff. And it just says, oh, well, you know, access user 107. Okay, cool. You access authenticated. Welcome, user 107. How may I assist you today? Like that to me is what's happening here. But again, for Felwinter, even Felwinter doesn't even know what's happening. It's all this subconscious things that he's doing, like subconscious movements of hands and fingers and screens that it's just kind of almost like it's pouring out of him that whatever he's doing is doing. But now he's accessing a bunker, which is also, I think, kind of could be bad because now, like, accessing the bunker is telling Rasputin exactly where he's at. But then on the other hand, the fact that it is a bunker, kind of like, who cares if Rasputin knows exactly where he's at? He's in a bunker. Like, you can't touch me with your war stats. What are you going to do? Zap me with his console? Whatever. Like, so yeah, it's he finally has somewhere that he can glean some information of A, what the hell a Warmind is, B, what Rasputin, the Warmind, is, and what it wants with him.
Well, and as he said, as Felwinter kind of said, once they got there, he realized he doesn't know what he's looking for. He's
Yeah.
just trying to find like something, anything. And it's unclear what information they get out of this. Not a lot. But at least they know now he can, for whatever reason, interface with this tech that is, you know, related to Rasputin or these bunkers. Doesn't understand why or really how to use it, but knows that it reacts to him. But they are continuing now their flight slash asylum seeking from these constant attacks that are harrying them at every turn. And we see where they end up, finally escaping those, at least for a little while, in chapter 6 of the Liar book, titled The Mountain. And it goes like this. Warsats and combat frames found Felwinter and Felspring everywhere they went. They weighed the pros and cons and decided that a fortified home base was safer than picking a new ramshackle camp every time they went to rest. It was risky, but so was everything else. So Felwinter climbed a mountain. At the top of it was a pre-Golden Age observatory they had found in a map database in the Seraph bunker. It was the perfect place to hide. It had a 360-degree view of the surrounding area, existing structures that could be fortified, a mountain that they could burrow into to hide themselves beneath thousands of tons of rock if they needed. "He won't find you up here," Felspring said. "Or at the very least, you'll see him coming." She sounded almost hopeful. "Maybe we could finally stop running." Felwinter looked warily at the sky, but said nothing. The only problem with the mountain was that it was occupied. A warlord named Castor had claimed it and the village at the mountain's base. But Felwinter knew everyone had a price, and he called on Castor to negotiate. Warlords, he learned, were poor negotiators. They were almost never willing to give ground. And in the end, Felwinter shot Castor's ghost and pushed him off the side of the mountain. A month later, during a routine patrol of the mountain's perimeter, Felwinter found a woman sitting on a rock ledge halfway down the mountain. Beside her, there was a wooden crate of sad-looking crops and another heavy with ammunition, and she stood up when he arrived. Felwinter exchanged a look with Felspring and then asked the woman, "Who are you?" "My name's Arthi," she said. "You killed Lord Castor, didn't you?" "Yes." "So you are the lord of this mountain now?" "It's my mountain," Felwinter said, "but I am no warlord." Arthi studied him. She had a thin, weathered face and calculating brown eyes. "My village is down there," she pointed down the mountain. "We need protection. That was Castor. Now it's you." She pointed to the crates as if she were explaining something to a very simple child. "This is our payment." Felwinter looked at her and then at the crates and said again, slowly, "I am no warlord, and I don't need your food." Arthi's expression was as blank and unreadable as his own. I'll be back next month. And that's the end of that lore card.
It's he's kind of like done something without doing something. he did something really nice, but not because he was doing something really nice. Like I do love this entry. He's tired. It's that this entire time Felwinter's expressed like, I'm tired. I want to sleep. I want to stop running. I want to just relax. I want to just rest. And so then the idea of a mountain, like, yeah, no, that seems pretty darn reasonable. Like, high elevation, you've got high ground, anything that's coming towards you has to work to get up to you. Like, you've got plenty of time to pick them off. 360-degree observation. It's a mountain, so if you need to get out of like raining hellfire from war sats, you can burrow into it. Like, this is like the ultimate defense to me. Like, this is perfect. But of course, and it's interesting because now we also have like kind of a time frame of when this is. There's a warlord up there. So this is early early risen time, right? Like this is the time of the warlords. I can't
the Dark Ages.
Dark Ages. That's what it is. Yep, Dark Ages. So now we have a time frame of when this is. So again, very very recent to the collapse in relative terms, I guess. And he goes up there and he knows he's heard of warlords before. He knows that they're kind of ruthless. Like he also knows that they're stupid. I can't like not to be mean about warlords, but there's only one warlord that exists now, and it's Shax that I know of. I was Saladin. Was he a warlord? No, he was an Iron Lord. So he's the epiphany of the opposite of a warlord. Like he is the people's warlords. Like or the people's lord, the people's, I don't know. The people's anti-warlord, I guess.
Yeah.
So like there's not a whole lot of there is only one warlord around, and that's Shax. So like the fact that Felwinter goes up there thinking, okay, well, I'm going to try to negotiate with him, but in the end, if I have to, I'm going to do what I have to. Kills his ghost. This is Sparta. Kicks him off the mountain.
Yep.
In my head, I'm like, this is Felwinter's Peak. Boo! And that's what he does. Yeah, that's. But then something crazy happens. This village at the bottom of the mountain has been kind of under the warlord's control, but also protection. And so when this guy comes up with the offerings for the month, like, hey, here's your ammo and food that the warlord requested, and since there is no warlord now and you're it, guess what? It's your stuff. Protect us, please. Like, and even Felwinter's like, I don't know what to do with this. Go away, please. I want to be left alone. And even the guy is like, no, I'm not just like, I'll be back next month for your ammo or for your offerings. Like, it's such an odd interaction between the two because all of this has happened just by circumstance. Like, no part of it was like a hey, I'm coming here to kick the warlord out and be the new warlord, or I'm coming here to be the people's lord and I'm gonna save the people from this ruthlessness of this warlord. And now nobody has a clue what is going on here, and everyone's just like, I just want to be left alone. And the other guys are like, well, you're gonna protect us, and okay, I guess, thanks. Like, it's such a an odd happenstance of events, right?
Right.
Like everyone's just kind of tripping over their own feet this whole time. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm remembering this mountain from somewhere. Is there a bar somewhere near this mountain?
So when it is actually christened Felwinter's Peak, Wu Ming, also known as the Drifter, does in fact have a bar at the bottom of this mountain. In this village.
That's what I was remembering. That's what I was remembering.
Yeah, it wouldn't be there yet because that wasn't until after the Iron Lords took up residence. But
okay.
But yeah, this is the same place.
Gotcha. So this is this is not now, but this is Felwinter's Peak. This
Yes.
is the mountain above the Vostok map.
Yep, that is exactly where we are. So we get to see how this relationship with the villagers, specifically this Arthi, continues through these offerings in the next chapter, which is number 7, titled The Warlord. And it goes like this. True to her promise, Arthi came back the next month with 2 more crates. This time, both were ammunition. She sat next to him, hugging her knees for warmth and looking out at the valley below until Felwinter came by to retrieve it. I thought this might be more useful to you, she said, since you don't want food. Felwinter looked at her, took the crates, and then went back up the mountain. The month after that, she brought salvaged weapon parts. When Felwinter came to retrieve them, she watched him until he turned to go, and then said, I know about you, you know. When he turned around to look at her, she lifted her chin. They call you Lord Felwinter. I hear you've killed more warlords than Castor. Over old technology from the time before the collapse. Not a warlord, Felwinter murmured, hiking onward. Arthi watched him and then called to his back. Just because you say that doesn't make it true. She came back the next month, and the next month, and the next. And they spoke a little more every time. About life in the village, about what they imagined the time before the collapse was like, about the future. The 7th time he saw her, he lingered a little while. Together they looked out over the valley beyond the mountain. You could really help us, Arthi said softly. All those golden age technologies you know so much about, we could live a totally different life. Felwinter stood completely still, looking out over the horizon. I can't, he said. She looked at him, trying to read his expression, and then looked sharply away. And they stood in silence for a while more. You know, she said, pointing down the mountain, warlords have been crashing through our village for ages, stepping on us, tearing up everything we plant, tearing down everything we build. I'm not a warlord, Felwinter said quietly. Sure, she said, but you're like them. You get 1,000 second chances. You get to live in a big fortress on top of a mountain. What do you think it's like for us? What do you think it's like to have the sky constantly falling down on you? And Felwinter stared at her. Arthi crossed her arms. It must be nice, she said. But not for him, for herself, for her people. It must be nice to not have to worry. And the next month, Arthi didn't come to meet him, nor the month after that. And that's the end of that card.
Oh, now I'm sad. That's a bummer card. I don't like that one. It was super sweet at first, and then it was a bummer. I don't like that one.
I do have to say, of all the people to say, what do you think it's like to have the sky constantly falling down on you?
And Felwinter's like the one guy that can be like, well, let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
It kind of fucking sucks. Yeah, no, that's, like, and again, that I am not a warlord, I'm not a warlord. Like, he's trying to get this through. Like, he doesn't, he's just as scared. It's odd, right? Because he's just as scared. I say scared. Maybe scared's not the right word, but he's just as scared as these people that are at the bottom of the mountain. Like he's having the world rain down on him every day. Like it's a constant struggle for him. Granted, he has a little easier recovery time in the fact that, well, Ghost will just res me.
Yeah.
But it's still a struggle. It's still a fight. Every day is a, you know, thank God I'm alive type thing. Like, our war stat's going to rain down on me today. Am I going to have to deal with 40 war frames tomorrow? Like, it's still a constant struggle for Felwinter. But yeah, it's man, oh, I'm sad again. It's a bummer. Like, it's like the warlords really were like a ruthless thing, a plague
Yeah.
of the original Risen, and the fact that there were some people like Felwinter that now granted there were others that weren't that were more noble about it, being the Iron Lords that were like, okay, we're going to stop these people from ruling over the lands. Like, there needs to be some type of law, some type of order, outside of just I'm paracausal, I rule everything.
Although, based on what we saw in Drifter's story, like, they weren't always the saviors of people either. Like, yes, they would battle the warlords, in the name of a righteous cause, but a lot of times villages full of innocents were in the crossfire, and
That's true.
they didn't necessarily always seem to care about that.
Yep. And that's like what you're saying, that we saw that in Drifter, that the whole village gets decimated and he walks away, and it's yeah, it's yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. That fucking sucks.
So, but this has been over the period of months, because
Yeah.
she's
Yep.
visiting once a month. It was on her 7th visit, so 7 months that they kind of had their initial conversation, and then at some point he started to get a little more comfortable hanging around a little bit and having a little bit of companionship there for that brief moment. And they talked about the village and about the future and what the golden age is like and all these things. And it started to really have an effect on him, especially their final meeting and those words of like, we, as much as it seems, silly to ask the person that has warsats fall on them, do you know what it's like to have the sky falling? But it also means that for Felwinter, he does understand, and so in a unique way, he can connect. He can draw a comparison of like, man, life sucks for me having to avoid these things. She's saying they're going through that too, in a slightly different way, of course. So it gives him an opportunity to also sympathize in a way
Yeah.
that some of the other Risen maybe can't or don't.
That like deeper understanding, right? Like that deeper connection there.
Yeah, yeah. And so we see this cause a change in Felwinter and give him a little bit of a purpose. And so we're going to read the next chapter, which is number 8, called The Search. And it goes like this. Don't understand what you're hoping to get out of this, Felwinter said stiffly. Felspring said stiffly as Felwinter searched another Seraph bunker. Golden Age weapons of every shape and size lined the walls. Some of them were clearly non-functional. Others looked pristine, save for the dust. If anything, she went on, you're just putting us back on his radar. When we stayed on the mountain, he stopped bothering us. When Felwinter didn't reply, Felspring bunched her shell and asked more pointedly, is this really because of what she said? Felwinter picked up one of the weapons, a massive grenade launcher. What who said? Felspring did an incredulous spin. Who? She said mockingly. Who? Felwinter glanced at her and then back at the grenade launcher. He held it up as if he were aiming at the wall, and then set it aside and went to pick up a scout rifle, examining its scope. For a while, Felspring just watched, and eventually she flew to his side again and said, "This isn't what they need, you know." When he paused to look at her, she went on. Weapons, I mean. There's enough of them out there already. His expression remained uncomprehending, and Fellspring sighed. The Golden Age was a time of peace and prosperity. Right, Felwinter said. They built things. They didn't tear them down. And at his continued silence, Fellspring floated around his other side. Think about it. It was the greatest expansion in humanity's history. Cities sprung up like weeds, impressive cities, and it all happened really fast. She paused. Huh. Actually, I don't know how they did it that fast. Felwinter stared at the scout rifle in his hands. Labor frames? Sure, but even that wouldn't have been enough. And it wouldn't have helped them terraform Titan on their own, that's for certain. They must have some kind of tech. Something to help them build. Felwinter nodded and set the scout rifle down. So where is this technology? Fellspring floated over to one of the computer terminals, inspecting the glowing controls. That's what I'm wondering, too. And that's the end of that lore card.
Peace is just the calm and planning in between wars. I've heard that quote somewhere, but I don't know where. But yeah, it's yeah. As much as the Golden Age was a peaceful time and a time of expansion, the war came, being the collapse. And just because it's peaceful doesn't mean that they didn't build machines of war or weapons of destruction, or tools of destruction, or whatever you want to call them. Like, yeah. But yeah. So yeah, Felwinter going through, like, trying to figure out this stuff, and this logic point of, like, okay, yeah, the Golden Age was great, and all these cities sprung up like weeds, but, like, how? Like, even construction takes time. These things couldn't happen overnight, but seemingly, and especially in the case of Titan, which was not terraformed by the Traveler, it was terraformed by us, the humans, the arcology. So yeah, like, we had to have had something to help with it, and now we're starting to get a more purposeful Felwinter. Like, before, it was a find, like, for the last, like, God knows how long, years, decades possibly, it was a find a place to hunker down. And now he's found that place. Now that he's found that place, started to make connections with the people around him, and they were taken from him. So now it's like, okay, now I want to hit back. And so the idea of, like, well, I need more firepower, I need more something. Which, to me, and again, looking through the eyes of a Guardian, firepower would be the first thing to pick up. Like, oh, how do I get stronger? How do I, it's the same concept of, like, hey, I'm beating my head against this boss. It's not working. What do I need? Do I need more damage? Do I need more? What do I need? And it's kind of that same thought pattern that I'm seeing here with Felwinter of, like, what do I need? What do I need? And then again, to kind of, like, talk through the logic of it, like, okay, well, all this stuff is Golden Age tech. Like, all this shit's all over the Sol system. There's plenty of these bunkers. There's plenty of these caches of weapons and whatnot. But this is it's like putting a Band-Aid on a hole in a dam. Like, it's doing something, but not very effectively, and there's still the bigger problem. And then to kind of think through the logic pattern of, like, okay, well, if this Golden Age stuff was around, let's think through this. They had these cities that were popping up like weeds. How did they build them? They had to have had something more. And you and I have talked about this myth. I'm thinking Siva.
I think that is absolutely what it is.
Nanite technology. That's like the I mean, we've seen what nanite technology is doing in Neomuna. Like, nanite technology is effing amazing. And also effing terrifying.
Yes.
but and again, I think it just shows like Stargate, where they had the replicators, and like that shit was terrifying. And and this is what still irks me. Sorry to get a little tangenty here, but this irks me about nanite technology and sci-fi. Why does it always have to be like bug-like? Like I guess I get it because it's like this swarm, like this hive mind thing. But why bugs? Why can't it be like something cute, like a I don't know, like a bunny or something? Like why can't we have like little bunny nanites that are just replicating like bunnies? You know what I'm saying? Like I would love a cute little fluffy nanite bunny. I don't love a horrifying spider bug like insectoid swarm murder hornet nanite thing. Let's not do that. I'm putting that down in notes for history, notes for future history. When nanites are created and perfected, please do not bug like them, bunny like them, for the love of God, or kitten like. I'd love a kitten. Oh my God, I'd lose my mind over a kitten like nanite. Okay, tangent and rant over.
Oh,
I'm thinking Felwinter's looking at Siva, or look not obviously not looking at Siva or for Siva, looking for that thing, and I think that thing that he is looking for is Siva.
yeah. No, I'm following the same train of thought. He's looking for, okay, golden age tech that made cities really, really quickly. Like we know that's what Siva did. Like that's what its primary function was originally, was to allow for easy colonization and for colonies and buildings to sprout up, because these nanites would just 3D print it essentially. And so he doesn't know that's what he's looking for yet, at least, but pretty sure that that's what it is. But so he is now has a purpose. He's had this thought put in his head of, man, life is really tough for the normal humans, the non-risen, and that golden age tech that you're so proficient in or so curious about could really help some of them out. And now he's kind of on a mission to, like, okay, I want to find this stuff. I want to help these people out, because of what Arthi told him. Really, really kind of stuck with him. And so he's found this bunker, and they're like, okay, now we have a thing to find. We know that this tech existed, or they hypothesize it existed. Now we got to find some more info about it, because that would really help everybody. And so that is now their journey. And we continue with chapter 10 of the Liar book, called The Discovery. And it goes like this. For weeks, Felwinter and Fellspring searched out different Seraph bunkers, trying to find remnants of the technology that built Golden Age utopias. One night, they camped in a Seraph bunker and spent hours poring over transcripts of old code. This is weird, Fellspring said, and projected a display of a long string of code. Look, in the Golden Age, Rasputin executes a protocol called Siddhartha Golem. No idea what it is. Some kind of knowledge gathering. It gathers a bunch of transcripts, conversations with humans, recordings of music, a huge database of literature. She whirred, and the projection flipped through thousands of words of code and then stopped. Here, early Dark Age, a submind in old Russia says Siddhartha Golem is active and gone rogue. Her voice dropped. Around the time I found you. Felwinter studied the code. It was almost like sight reading, not quite effortless, but like a native tongue he had somehow forgotten. But what is Siddhartha Golem? He murmured. Fellspring zipped back and forth through the code again at a nervous, stuttering pace, and then stopped, and then scrolled through the code again and stopped, and scrolled through the code again and stopped. Wait, her voice quivered just a little. See that? This is the first time Siddhartha Golem is mentioned. She paused and then went on. It says initiate Siddhartha Golem upload at DSC 342. DSC, Felwinter. Felwinter was silent, thinking, uncomprehending. DSC? He asked quietly. Deep Stone Crypt. She was almost whispering now. That means Siddhartha Golem was an exo. Felwinter looked down at himself, at his hands. He turned them over, studying the worn metal of his palms. And the silence filled the bunker nearly to bursting. To Felwinter, it felt like years until either of them spoke. The whole time Felspring watched him frozen in the air. It's you, she whispered. And that's the end of that card.
What a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Like, to now, like, fully understand, like, what you are. Like, very, very, very few Risen, Guardians, Warlords, Iron Lords, anyone who has a ghost, light bearers, truly understand anything about themselves. You're talking an amnesiac, undead, paracausal entity. Paracausal power wielding entity? Are we ourselves now paracausal because we have paracausal powers? Or are paracausal powers what rule us? Existential crisis. So like very few. I mean, Anna Bray, and only because she woke up with a name tag. Like, who wakes up with a name tag going, "Oh shit, my name's Anna Bray. Sweet, I'm a Bray. What the fuck's a Bray?" Like, it's so funny to me to think of Anna Bray of like, oh well, yeah, well of course she's Anna Bray, but is she really Anna Bray? And then like last season really drove home that point of like Elsie really understands it way more than Anna does. And there's that disconnect there. And even and Mara and Uldren, the connection, or Mara and Crow now, the connection that's there. It's this lost connection. Even though Crow has his memories, those memories are just it's almost like it's like reading a book through someone else's eyes or something like that. Like it's your life, but you're not. Those experiences they're gone. Like you're just being told or shown. Like, oh yeah, this happened to you, and you're just like, okay, cool, I guess. I don't fucking remember that shit. So yeah, it's. But then like here to have that full discovery of like, oh, and again, coming back to the idea of like, what is Felwinter? Is he an exo? But even like his body's an exo. But at a base level, it is some subroutine or some code directly from Rasputin that was downloaded into that exoframe and then just activated. And now, and again, thinking of this on like a live action movie happening in front of me. What if you're one of these guys at like you're the janitor? I've created a character now. Fuck. You're the janitor at DSC, right? You're sweeping the floor. Normal everyday thing. Cryopod, was it 132?
342.
342. See, I'm bad squirrel brain. So you're lonely janitor Carl. Fuck, I've named him. Lonely janitor Carl, sweeping the floors at DSC. Cryopod activates, and this thing steps out of it, and you're just like, what the fuck is that? And it just gets up and walks out the front door, and you're just like, do I report this? Guys, did y'all do that? Did y'all activate this thing? Like, what the shit just happened? So yeah, that's thinking on that side of it of like, you know, how would that have looked at the DSC for this exoframe to just get up, activate, get up, and walk out the front door when, you know, on the back end of it, it's being uploaded by a Warmind and taken control of, and like, hey, go experience the world for me so I can then download those experiences and become more human and fully understand humanity. or better understand humanity, maybe not fully, but better understand humanity, and have a better understanding of my base core functions of protect humanity and be the savior of humanity. So yeah, like yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this realization, like you said, 99.9% of Guardians don't know their past lives. And he has just had the utter bombshell of like, you're kind of part Warmind.
Does that make him his son?
I mean, I think if you need a term for it, that's probably the closest one. You know, he is the progeny of Rasputin.
Yeah, like this whole time I keep thinking of him as like a subroutine, but maybe son is more accurate.
He can certainly think for himself at this point.
Yeah.
So, but so they're just kind of sitting in this silence, and then Felspring finally, says it like it's you. You are Siddhartha Golem. And we get the continuation of Felspring's statement on the Felwinter's Lie shotgun from Season of the Worthy. And the lore card on that continues with Felspring saying, "We can't tell anyone. Do you know how powerful a Warmind is? I know you do. We've been running from one for centuries. Not just powerful either, but intelligent, storing every secret of the Golden Age from the Traveler's arrival right up until the collapse. Imagine if people realized you had all of it buried somewhere in your head. Just imagine what that would mean to them. So we can't tell anyone. You're something totally new. Part Guardian, part Warmind. There's no one else like you. I think that is why the Traveler sent me to you. But other people won't understand it. And Rasputin will never, ever stop coming after you. After us. So it's just us, Felwinter. Just you and me. This is our lie, and ours alone." And that's the end of that card.
And that is Felwinter's Lie.
Mm-hmm.
Can't tell anyone. The greatest secret ever held. Though I do still think back to last season and the idea of Rasputin himself being raised as a guardian. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he did all the things.
I mean, kind of. Well, and it's interesting to think about, Felwinter started as Siddhartha Golem, which was meant to be re-uploaded into Rasputin at a later time, and finally was with the season right before Season of the Seraph, right before Lightfall, was finally integrated into Rasputin. And
oh yeah, that's right, because we found we found
the ghost. We found Wellspring,
right.
the remains of Wellspring at Felwinter Peak. Felspring, yeah. And it was that reintegration that was the moment essentially where Rasputin spoke to us and had all the memories of Felwinter, and like really, I think for the first time could understand how the outside world viewed Rasputin.
That's crazy that he only really had that for like such a short time, for like that one season. Yeah. And then that, like, God, that's crazy.
But, he incorporated some of Felwinter's ideals into himself at that time, though. We see here Felwinter is really starting to, like, even though it's a risk to himself to come down off Felwinter Peak, he's willing to go to these bunkers to try and find something to help people, to help his people, the ones on his mountain.
I mean, that speaks to that humanity side, right?
Yeah. Like, I think he learned from humanity and is now remembering or coming to terms with the fact that, like, he has power to help others and he wants to do that. So, taking a short detour from the Liar book, we're going to look at the entry for Felwinter Peak from D1 Grimoire during Rise of Iron. So Felwinter's Peak says this. Long before the last of the Iron Lords descended into the Plague Lands, this peak was the domain of one of our own, Lord Felwinter. His maps and outposts show the risen Exo roamed free from the Aral Seas to an eastern border known as Sighton's Ridge, before taking the Iron Oath. There is no evidence of human enclaves or encampments within this area, nor survivors within the Cosmodrome walls, but extensive one-way audio recordings with an unknown entity survive. A chance meeting with Lord Timur in the Mothlands led to Timur's first reports on the promises of Siva. Felwinter's conscription into the ranks and the raising of the Iron Temple commenced shortly thereafter. So we don't have a record of Timur meeting Felwinter, the moment where they met each other.
Sure.
But Lord Timur was an Iron Lord. The Iron Lords were in place at this time.
Before he took the peak, like.
Well, this would be after, technically.
Okay.
So he's taken the peak, and then he's just been roaming through these bunkers, and has gone so far as this place called Sighton's Ridge, which maybe that name sounds familiar to some people. And
freaking Titans.
And he's been exploring these bunkers, trying to find more information now about this thing that built up, the Golden Age cities and colonies. And he comes across Lord Timur in the Mothlands, and presumably their conversation led to Timur learning of Siva. And perhaps Felwinter had seen the name, had known that technology existed at this point. Because as Felspring said in the previous lore card, like, they have been doing this for centuries at this point.
Yeah.
And so Timur heard about Siva and was enamored by the prospects of what this kind of technology could do, and was like, oh, this is great. You're searching for this to help people. You need to meet the other Iron Lords. You need to come with me. And that's what they did.
Indoctrinates and takes the oath and builds a temple.
Yeah. And we see some of those interactions in chapter 11 now of the Liar book, which is entitled The Iron Lord. And it goes like this. He wants to join us, Timur said to Radagast. Felwinter stood next to him, silent, unreadable. Unlike other Exos Radagast had seen, he didn't seem to have any emotion mods beyond the factory defaults. It was unnerving. Radagast tips his chin to Felwinter. Timur says you have an interest in the Golden Age. In the Warmind, Timur said. Rasputin, to be exact. Felwinter said nothing. What brings you to us? Radagast asked. Felwinter glanced at Timur, and then back at Radagast. Your friend here told me about the nanotech you're looking for. Siva. He paused. It sounds too good to be true, but I want to help you find it. Radagast studied him and then finally nodded. Any civilians on your mountain? A little settlement at the bottom. We think that mountain would make a really good place for our base of operations. Funny, Felwinter said without any trace of humor. I said the same thing to myself years ago. Radagast snorted. So, would you give up that peak for the cause? If I do my people get the protection of the Iron Lords? Timur slapped Felwinter on the back, a giant hand hitting an immovable object, and Radagast smiled, just a little. Let me take you to Saladin, he said. He'll tell you all about the city. And that's the end of that card.
Yeah. So there we go. Lord Felwinter, now officially Lord Felwinter? Like
not quite yet.
Okay.
But nearly.
Because the when he took over the warlord, like they started calling him Lord Felwinter type
I guess
thing,
that's true, yeah.
But it's now Iron Lord Felwinter. You know, like that's kind of neat how that really was like the thing with the Iron Lords, right? Like there were the warlords, and now there are the Iron Lords, these protectors of the people. These warlords are powerful, but they need to be reeled in and some of them put down. Some of them need to just be put in their place and go, okay, look, that's cool that you're all powerful and whatnot. Let's put that power to use. Like, like you don't need to be this piece of shit guy running around killing all these civilians just for the fun of it. Let's help protect these civilians. Let's put that power to good use. And so to me, like this is like a natural what would you call that? Like a natural, not friendship, but like a natural I don't know, a natural progression to me for Felwinter to go from like kind of like this like, oh my God, I'm being chased down by Warminds and Warsats, and now I've got a place, and there's these people. Oh, these people are nice, and now they're dead. Fuck. Now I want revenge. And maybe not revenge, but now I want to help protect them, and then to kind of come into the Iron Lords there. But yeah, and then even the Iron Lords see that peak as much as a. I'm curious as to where this peak is. This peak is it Mount Everest?
Oh, as far as where it is real world?
It's got to be, right? Like, it's near Russia. Like,
hard to say. I mean, I'm sure there's more than one mountain over there.
That's true. That's true.
And it doesn't take that long to get up it in like the story missions and such that we're doing. So
I like that's your logic of if it's like those Sherpa guys take like weeks to get up this thing. We get up this thing in like 15 minutes.
I guess.
You dumb fuck.
Well, okay.
that was exactly what Mitch just said to me in subtones, and I appreciate that, and I definitely, yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. But I do like the idea of like trying to place these things geographically. Like everyone's always trying to place like where the last city is. And for the longest time, everyone was like, "Oh, well, Cosmodrome, it's near that, so it's got to be near in Russia." And then like somebody took the time to be like, "Oh, well, no, the shadows move from," and I don't remember the correct orientation, but we'll say left to right, and that puts it in the southern hemisphere. And then if you look at the mountain range that's outside the city, like it kind of looks like the Andes Mountains, so this thing might actually be in South America. Like I love that every time we look at Destiny, we look at specifically Earth, because that's kind of like the only place we have anywhere to give any type of context to of a relative location. Like we always try to figure out where we are on Earth, and it's to think of Felwinter's Peak and to be definitely near the Plague Lands, which is near the Cosmodrome. If I'm remembering correctly, they share a border, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So for this to be that close to that, it's got to be somewhere near Russia, or the Cosmodrome, which is somewhere in old Russia, where is an unknown. But mountain ranges in Russia, that would be the Himalayas, which would be south of Russia. So yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Felwinter's Peak is now Mount Everest, even though it only takes you like 5 minutes to climb.
Yeah.
Hey, we're paracausal, damn it. How about that?
I mean, also to be fair, they were able to build a trolley that takes you up it. So
Oh, maybe it's not.
that
Okay,
might
maybe
be a
it's
little hard to do for Mount Everest.
that.
Maybe
That
not. I
might be a
don't know.
little. Hey, it's Golden Age trolley.
Yes. Yep.
God
Golden
damn
Age.
it! God damn.
But so what is interesting here, it looks like based on this chapter, it might not necessarily be that Felwinter told Timur about Siva. It sounds like Timur had discovered Siva or the concept
Something of
it.
Siva, like
And
whether it
then,
be like a data entry or something, but just some type of information.
And then stumbled across Felwinter, who was also exploring these bunkers. And Felwinter has a vested interest in Rasputin. And Timur is probably like, hey, I know these two are related, or they were both Bray tech or something. Like, we should team up and share knowledge. And oh, by the way, do you want to come join my band? Kind of thing.
Who would like to me? Timur would be he'd be a guitarist.
I can see that.
Well, I don't know. He did have that big old hand clasp on the immovable object, so I don't know. Like maybe he might be a drummer. I don't. Maybe a bassist. That's what bassists are. No offense to all the bassists out there, but you're just drummers that are also guitarists, or you're guitarists that wanted to be drummers but couldn't keep rhythm that well.
Well, then.
I only know this because that's what I wanted to do. But then I sucked at guitar too, so I didn't get either part. I didn't get any part of it. I didn't get to be the drummer. I didn't get to be the guitarist. I didn't get to be the bassist. I got to pick notes every so often. So yeah.
Yeah, but so Radagast seems to approve of Felwinter, specifically of Felwinter's want for the people on his mountain to be protected.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think, where Radagast is like, yeah, okay. You know, we have similar goals, you know, the protection of the lightless. And so he's like, let me take you to Saladin. Let's get you introduced to everyone else. And we get to see that meeting, which is quite comical and slightly disturbing. On the lore card for Felwinter's Helm. And it goes like this. Here's the one, Radagast said, pleased with himself. Felwinter stood in front of the Iron Lord with his shotgun loose but ready at his side. He said nothing. All right, Aphrodite said, clapping her hands together. Well, right off the bat, you look like an Iron Lord. Formidable, grim. Lord Saladin thinned his lips, but said nothing. Aphrodite walked in a circle around Felwinter, studying his beat-up armor. She paused behind him and then said uneasily, turn around. Felwinter hesitated, and then reluctantly began an awkward, stomping turn in place. He faced away from the Iron Lords, revealing the back of his helmet, and embedded in it was a broken, flickering ghost. Its eye darted in frantic circles. What in the traveler's forsaken hell is that? Scory breathed. Felwinter turned back around. A warlord's ghost, he said. The group stood in stunned silence. Okay, Aphrodite said slowly, walking back over to join her companions. First rule, no armor modifications using half-dead ghosts, she grimaced. Take that thing off. It's useful, Felwinter said. His ghost floated beside him and bobbed as if to nod in agreement. I have to agree with Aphrodite, Saladin said. Put it out of its misery. You should have done that a long time ago. He eyed Felwinter. Non-negotiable. They stared at each other for a long moment, sizing each other up. All right, Felwinter said finally. I'll take it off. But he never did. And that's the end of that card.
And the helmet stayed on. Spin for mommy Efreet, please. I like this. I like it. Like
Oh.
it's like it is. So I bleh, words. Try them, Zor. They work. Uh, so the exotic Felwinter's helm does still have
Mhm.
that ghost in it. Like
Yes, it does.
if you go look, it's there. It's freaky. And it is literally it's darting. Like it's almost like it's looking like it's trying to escape. Right?
Right?
Like
Yeah.
it's freaky. It's really freaky. And for this to be like I think that's the only thing in all of existence that has a half dead ghost, an almost dead ghost in
Mm-hmm.
it. Like it's freaky. It really is. But then for like again for for Saladin to be like no, and Felwinter to go, I'm just gonna stare you down until we all have drinks and forget about it. And then they do. Like
Yep, that's pretty much what happened.
like he told you to take it off and he didn't say no, but he
just
didn't
never
take it
did.
off. Like I'll take it off when I'm dead. Okay. You do you, bud. Yeah, no, it's very too very much. Okay, so does that make Saladin the lead singer?
No, that would be Aphrodite.
Because I think Saladin, because then like he's giving all the rules, but then nobody listens to him.
Right. Saladin is he's the roadie. He's the one that sets up all the equipment.
Or event manager.
There you go. No one listens to him.
Nobody listens to the event manager. You and I both know this. Nobody listens to that guy. Yeah, no. God damn it. Now this come put your hands together for the Iron Lords. Yeah.
That could actually be a band.
I know, that's like the crazy part too. Like it doesn't not work, but it's weird. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I've now created two things tonight, Myth, and I'm not proud of either. I'm proud of one of them. I'm proud of Carl. Not real proud of this Iron Lord band thing.
Well, we'll move on then.
All right. Well, and real quick though, remind me the effect, because I'm trying to remember the effect on the Felwinter's helm. It's what powered melees create a weakening effect around it.
Yep, powered melee kills or finishers create a weakening, I think weakening and blinding explosion around the enemy that was killed.
And finishers on more powerful enemies make it bigger.
Is a bigger explosion. Yep.
Yeah. I was trying to think if that had anything to do lore wise with Felwinter, but I don't think it does. I think it's just a fun effect.
Yeah, well, I say Felwinter is noted in a few places as being a masterful void warlock, which could explain the weakening portion.
Oh, sure.
I mean, blinding's more an arc thing, so and plus that helm was made before the 3.0 verbs, but it kind of fits.
I like your logic there. Like, 3.0 verbs didn't exist, so he doesn't even actually know what blinding is.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't know.
God damn it.
But no, so he, despite disturbing armor modifications, gives Felwinter's Peak to the Iron Lords. They accept him as an Iron Lord, and he continues his work of, well, two things, of exploring, for more information about Rasputin and now Siva, but also being an Iron Lord. And we know he traveled a lot during his time before being an Iron Lord. He experienced a lot of things. Arthi, all the way back when he first got the mountain, had said, like, we know of you. You have killed many warlords before now. So he, even though we don't have lore cards for that, he had a pretty storied life even up till this point.
And remind me again, as far as Iron Lords are concerned, there's only like 10 of them, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So Yolder, Scory, Felwinter, Saladin, Radagast, Timur. That might be it. Aphrodite.
That's 7.
That's 7.
For some reason, I'm remembering like 8 or 10. And the only reason why is I'm remembering the old D1 artifacts.
Right, yeah.
That like each one had a different thing.
I'm not sure exactly how many there were, but it wasn't a ton.
The Iron Lords were a very small group. It wasn't like a whole army of dudes. It was literally like 10
Right.
guys. And that was now again, 10 light bearers, like, I mean, we know what 6 light bearers can do. We can kill gods. Like,
Yeah.
10 light bearers with like righteous intention behind it, like, Lord knows what they could do.
So he now has, freedom to continue his search, but also a new responsibility, I guess, as an Iron Lord to, protect those that cannot protect themselves to the best of his ability. And he knows of some areas already that could do with a little adjustment in management. And
adjustment in management.
Yep. And
I like that. I'm keeping that one.
We are going to take a small detour away from Felwinter for just one entry to give a little bit of backstory before we come back to him. And this is going back to that name you guys may have picked up on in the Felwinter's Peak card, Sighton. Specifically, we're going to look at Sighton's Ramparts, which are the Titan exotic gauntlets that give us a little information about Lord Sighton, who was a warlord at the time. And it goes like this. Winter had struck hard. The citizens of the 32nd sector of Old Russia were ill prepared. Many recently homeless due to the unrelenting snowstorm that plagued the land. In search of shelter and barely clinging to life, they turned to the man who promised protection, the Titan warlord, Sighton. Reluctant to offer rations despite a stable full of potential meals, an overstocked keep in a magnificent great hall garnished with every delicacy one could desire, Sighton felt a firm grasp over the supply chain. He was of the opinion that a hungry mob would not have the energy to try and revolt. Not that he required an advantage over his people. His light was already all the advantage needed to ensure the status quo. But hunger could cause people to act irrationally. An oversight in Sighton's philosophy, and soon they were banging down the doors of his stronghold. In a display of utter dominance, Sighton allowed the doors to open, personally standing between his people and the warmth and comfort of his hall. My home is open to any with the will to earn it. You only need get past me. His hands sparked with arc light. Out of desperation, one brave soul made a meager attempt to dart past the towering warlord. His nose barely passed the threshold before he was instantly disintegrated by a fist of havoc. Anyone else? And that's the end of that card.
Yeah, warlords were ruthless. That's that whole like absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's holds true here.
So you have Sighton, a warlord that, by nature of being a guardian, doesn't strictly need food, who is hoarding it specifically to keep his people hungry and on, the brink of starvation, because then they don't have enough energy to become a problem in his mind. Compared to Felwinter, who on his very first meeting with a villager said, I don't need your food. And they kept it for themselves from that point forward. Very stark contrast to how they were running their, protection of their domain. And we also know that Felwinter did go to Sighton's Ridge at one point, based on that Felwinter's Peak card. So they've met before. And now Felwinter is coming back. And we see this in the Lord Felwinter Grimoire card from D1 Rise of Iron. And this tells the story of their reunion. And it goes like this. Deep inside a clandestine stronghold sat the dark horse Felwinter, and Satan, warlord of the 32nd sector of Old Russia. A polished obsidian table rested heavily between them. Didn't think you'd have the courage to come back here, said the warlord. Situational awareness, not courage. I go where I can do the most good. Thank you for seeing me. Felwinter's voice sounded as hollow as his helmet. Satan wanted to knock it clean off the Iron Lord's bony shoulders. He could do it with a single punch. As I recall, you used to have a throne on that light-forsaken peak, till you joined up with the wolves. You're the only warlord I know who held an entire mountain. Felwinter Peak. No one ever calls it that. The Iron Lords do, though they did ask me to take the throne down. Satan's laugh shook the room. How is losing territory ever a good thing for a warlord? Felwinter folded his hands atop the table. Underneath it, Satan made two fists, a crescent of light flickering between them. Join us and find out, said the Iron Lord. Turn your sector over to us. You can still patrol it, of course. Satan's voice lowered. Of course you know I'll refuse. Then we'll put you down and take your territory by force, over and over again if we have to. I invite you to my home after you abandon us, and you come to threaten me? The warlord stood, towering over Felwinter. No, to broker peace. Satan thought that even the voice behind the helmet didn't believe what it said. The floor shuddered as the warlord upended the massive table with one hand. It smashed into the opposite wall as tendrils of void light passed through it and coalesced into Felwinter's leaping form. Satan had seen this parlor trick before, and judged that he could hammer the Iron Lord out of the air. But Felwinter's momentum continued into a knee lift that smashed into Satan's head as the larger man reared back to strike. The warlord fell, the front of his helmet shattering. Felwinter landed next to Satan's prone body. Lady Yolder taught me that. Can't say the Iron Lords haven't done me any favors, the voice intoned. You know we'll burn the world down before we let the Iron Lords rule it. The large man gasped, breathing out of his mouth, his face a bloody mess. The void light in Felwinter's hand snapped, and so did the warlord's neck. Radagast is scattered. Perun is indecisive. Silumir wants to build a tower and hide, but they're going to change the world, and no one can stop them, Felwinter said quietly to the corpse. He parted his coat and drew a bronze shotgun. Will it be for the better? I don't know. But they mean to end the fighting, so I don't have to sleep with my back to the wall every night. Light in my hand, and that's not nothing. And he paused, as if waiting for something. Normally, this is where I would ask you to reconsider my offer. Tell you that you should come with me. See how powerful your light can become, but I know you, Satan. What you do with the land you take, with its people, the other lords, especially Saladin, might let you walk away. I'm not going to give them that chance. And Satan's ghost sparked into view from above, bringing its eye to bear on its fallen charge. The warlord emerged from a radiant column, a frenzied shout on his lips, and Felwinter's shotgun cracked like thunder. Once for the warlord, and again for his ghost. And that's the end of that card.
Put that mofo in the ground. Jesus. Felwinter's kind of brutal, man.
A little bit. He takes his protection very seriously.
Aggressively seriously. Yeah. Holy shit, man. That's as much as I say, like, that's an Iron Lord for you, like, this is at least for Felwinter in this instance, this is much more personal because he's been out there before. He knows what this guy's about. He knows this guy's not going to relent. He knows this Titan guy is just kind of a piece of shit, like hoarding food to keep his people hungry so they don't have enough energy to revolt. And even if they did, like, he's just going to disintegrate them with a fist of havoc. Like, yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit. Like, so yeah, I don't know. I think I'm on Felwinter's side on this one.
Yeah, just a bit. But so yeah, that is where we are going to pause for this episode, and we will pick up Felwinter's story in part 2.
Alrighty. Well, yeah. All right. Well, let's do some shout outs then.
Yeah, so we've got a few shout outs tonight. So the first one coming to us from Twitter, from Connor, who has a question or a observation. So they say, after watching your Root of Nightmares, he said watching, but listening to your Root of Nightmares, and the guesses of void being an element of light and dark, it would lend to why Savathun was so interested in void light, as she knew of the ability from Nezarec, and then to see Lightbearers using it, it would have been a great place. I think they're going for like a that would have keyed her off to this is something that kind of sits in between.
Sure.
And I think it's an interesting idea. Like, there was she definitely had this fixation on void light specifically from Savathun's song Strike.
Yep.
So it would make sense. She is familiar with it because of Nezarec, who presumably had void abilities already and knew that maybe that one was a little more malleable from someone of the darker persuasion.
I think of that. I think I've always thought of this even since D1. Like, void is that like almost that in between, like not quite dark, not quite light. It's somewhere in between. Like, if there were to be like a gray subclass, like void would be it.
Yeah.
Which Myth, being the resident void warlock, has now keyed me into its awesomeness, and so now I have ranked it at number 1 for my. If I'm going to do hard content, that's what I want to go as. God, the survivability of Void Warlock with Devour and my God, man, it's amazing. It's freaking awesome.
You give me Devour, you give me Repulsor Brace, and you give me Volatile Rounds, and I am set for life.
And you get weakening effects too, like Void Buddy, a 15% that lasts for like 12 seconds, like. You don't even need divinity. You don't unless you're going for like specifically crit shots. You don't necessarily need divinity, but like Void Buddy and rockets all day long. Like, that's yeah. Well, thank you, Connor.
Yeah. So our next shout out also comes to us from Twitter, from Dino, who just says, shout out to Myths and Stories for helping me get through work easier with the podcasts.
Well, shout out right back at you.
Yeah.
How about that? I'm glad that we can help get you through the day. That makes me happy.
Yeah, glad we can help make the day a little better, a little easier for you. That is, as always, the goal. So our third shout out for tonight, I actually have to apologize a little bit because this is a very delayed one. This user put it in February. This is via Audible review, and my Audible reviews have been sorted by most helpful, not by most recent.
Oh God!
So I didn't see it.
That's why you haven't seen new ones.
Yeah, I didn't see it until today when I realized that. So apologies, but this came to us from Trinity in Audible.
Trinity Ghoul?
Maybe. Trinity says, best podcast I've ever listened to. Absolutely love the content. Really has helped me understand Destiny 2, and I'm very thankful that you exist. Thank you for existing. P.S. Although this might make Zor mad, tetrahedrons
Hold the hell
are
on.
technically pyramids.
Get the shit out of here. Give me evidence, Myth.
So, as soon as I read this, I had to look. I had to know.
Get the fuck out of here.
So I did a Google search, and sure enough, Wikipedia on tetrahedron says tetrahedron is one kind of pyramid, which is a polyhedron with a flat polygon base and triangular faces. It is known as a triangular pyramid.
Damn it.
So,
all right,
there you go.
We can call them pyramids. Damn it.
Trinity, you have single-handedly proved Zor wrong and made it okay for all the dialogue to say pyramid. So thank you for that. But so that is all of the shout outs that we have for tonight. Thank you to those that felt strongly enough to leave us something, and to everyone that just enjoys listening. We love you guys too. If you do ever want to leave a comment, you can do so on via a review on your platform of choice, or you can reach us on Twitter at Myths and Stories with a Z instead of an S, and we will see it there.
Yeah. Well, we already know where my thanks is going tonight. Thank you, Carl the janitor, for keeping your mouth shut, or otherwise we wouldn't have Felwinter.
Yep.
I mean, but also maybe not thank you. Like maybe tell someone next time.
Well, there you go.
I knew as soon as I named him, I was like, that's it. That's it.
That's the one.
Game over.
That's the one.
Also, real quick, yeah. Carl, that kills people.
See, that's what I was waiting for. That was the connection I was expecting to come up.
Carl, letting exos run free kills people. Why would you do this?
Well, in this case, it kills warlords, and they kind of deserved it, apparently. So
okay, then. Thank you, Carl, for killing warlords inadvertently.
But no. So I did want to also just mention that we have had an absolutely incredible month. Since Lightfall dropped,
22,000 new downloads
is
I'm
insane.
Just gonna spoil it right now because I don't have a word for this. Like 22,000 downloads in 30 days. Get the hell out of here. This is amazing. You guys are awesome. That you have no idea how happy that makes Myth and I. Like we were gushing over this before we started recording tonight, and we were just, thank you so much.
It is incredibly humbling and awesome and kind of scary.
Dude, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it.
Well, I thank you very much for for listening, and you have a unlimited number of ways to spend your very limited time, and I'm just happy that you think we're deserving of it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. All right. Well, anything else, Myth, or?
No, that's it.
All righty. Well, from all of us Lore Daddies to all of you Guardians out there, we'll see you next time.